Arc Raiders came onto the scene this past weekend and just concluded its first publicly shareable tech test. While no details are shared about the upcoming test other than "we'll see you soon" from their official Twitter account and no release date has been given just yet, I think this game might be my newest obsession. Here's why.
Try and run towards us. Got one behind me. I'm knocked. Two there. Another one right there. This guy's moving up.
Down one.
Nice. Yep, right on that ping. Backing up.
Like outside, yeah.
Yeah, out here. In on the hallway.
Down one.
Got one.
Yep. Outside. He's weak, yep.
You know it?
Got one. I mean, bold strategy to push that again.
I thought you knocked this guy. Sorry.
You're good.
Gonna fish me.
Oh!
So let's start with what I think is probably the most apparent. The polish of the game was something that surprised me right away. The gameplay was fluid, refined, and intuitive. Had you told me this game was available to play today as a fully released game, I'd probably believe you. The only hiccups that I found were a bit of stuttering on the final day, where at the start of each match, the first minute or two would produce some random stutters in the gameplay experience, but again, for the most part of the entire weekend at large, it wasn't too much of an issue for me personally. Graphically, again, I'll say it again, I think this game is beautiful. That's subjectively speaking, maybe it isn't your vibe, and that's entirely fine, but for me, I love the sort of apocalyptic wasteland vibe. I love the visuals, love the dynamic weather systems. I think that in particular added a whole ton to the atmosphere of the game that made each run not really feel so monotonous per se. We only had 3 maps here in the tech test, but it was something that with those dynamic weather systems, it changed how you may approach a lot of the engagements that otherwise would be mundane and made for interesting deviations for the gameplay loop. I also love that basically every screenshot could have been a cinematic shot. That helps out big time too. Probably one of the things though that I loved the most out of this playtest was how much you could actually do. Like, there was so much stuff across a number of different things. Build crafting, level progression, skill trees, contracts, you name it. There was a lot to do, again, in just a short period of time. For build crafting, there was so much to do that I really enjoyed. Granted, I was playing with different squads at different times that were at different levels of their progression through the gameplay loops, so I wasn't consciously going for specific things half the time, but by the end of about 13 hours of playtime, I was only tier 1 going on tier 2 of the upgrades above the basic bench. I still had to find more things to upgrade. Scrappy, the rooster who gives you more basic parts, and a bunch of other things, which that's actually one of the hilarious things that I was kind of blown away by. Yesterday, for the last day of the tech test, Embark put out a fun facts graphic that showcased things like 7 million Arc enemies were destroyed, 4 million rounds were played for 1.7 million hours of playtime, there were 58 queens defeated versus the 17,000 raiders who died taking on the queen. But the most absurd stat to me was there was only one singular raider who upgraded Scrappy to max level. So what in the world are those unlock requirements for level 2 and above? But in all seriousness, for me, this might not necessarily be the sort of showcase moment that you'd think that after 13 hours you're still so little into that game's progression. But for me, I really enjoyed that it's still, after so long, there was so much that I felt like I could accomplish for just things like crafting and upgrades, not even getting to the other stuff. And as you play more, crafting recipes are something you find more and more. There are 57 of those in the build that we just played, so 57 new items that you could then craft in your corresponding workbenches of your workshop, whether it be your weapons, equipment, med, utility, explosive, refiner benches. It's the way that you'd get more things to make on top of the default ones that are already there with each of those benches. So at some point, the game and regaining, if you end up losing all your stuff, maybe turned into an easier mode. Granted, you still have only, at least in this tech test, a max cap of your inventory of 200 items, so you might not even have those things on hand to craft things that may make it easier. But theoretically, the more you play, the more you'll end up unlocking, and being able to jump back into things could get a little bit easier. So it's worth that playtime here. And I think really puts an emphasis on actually trying to loot versus just hunting out PvP or other things like that. Like, if you want to go in solely for the fact of trying to end up looting and getting these things, you can go in with free loadouts and just try and search everything and get in and get out. It puts a more heavy emphasis, I think, on that. But coming back to the recipes in particular, those are rare to find, and you find duplicates of them a lot. So it's going to take quite a bit to end up getting each of those recipes available. There was so much to do with level progression and skill trees, which I feel like this was something that was actually changed from our test before the public test and then in the public test. If I'm not mistaken, in our closed test session where we got the footage for the last video we talked about Ark, that was something that every single time I exfilled, it felt like I got a skill tree point. But now it was something that was only granted when you leveled up. So I might be wrong on that initial comparison, but this definitely elongates that playtime and what it takes to complete everything to max out your skills and become an air quote like max soldier, which does kind of play into the lack of initial wipes on stuff that have been talked about. I still kind of think that if you have multiple month seasons, like 3 to 4 months per season, a wipe every 3 to 4 months as a new starting point for everybody to have level ground again, that would be nice, but that's just my 2 cents. PvP, while experiencing it now at a larger perspective, I know that a lot of people aren't for PvP in these types of games. Like, it's kind of stressful to consider losing all your stuff, and hell, I know firsthand, like every time I got good stuff, like legendary gear, I think the longest I lasted with legendary gear was maybe 2 matches or so because I got a little bit overzealous with how I could approach situations. I was excited to jump into more PvP engagements, and well, I died and I lost it all. So I get the stress of not wanting to lose your gear, but I feel like in this tech test, it was really well managed. Once you got the hang of the movement, you got the hang of the dodge rolling, the shoulder swapping, the weapons that you can then give you better fighting chance with, it all really kind of went into a flow state of sorts where I had the span of at least a few hours where I was like, I am confident I'm not going to lose any gunfights. And for the most part, I did win a lot of those gunfights. I think there was maybe in that span of like 6 or 7 hours, I maybe lost 2 and I had to restart from a couple of things that I had saved in my stash. But the thing is, you can do that at just about any level, whether it be with high level loot or maybe not. Maybe go in with a free loadout. That was something that, yeah, if you go in with a free loadout, you get a Pharaoh, a single shot sniper. Might not give you the best opportunity because you only have 1 shot at a time and it's not a very fast reload on that base one. But you get something with multiple rounds in a magazine, full auto, well, you can start to use those maneuvers and positioning to take down basically anyone. PvE, now kind of immersing myself in it with another day of playtime in on top of this, it was something that I think is pretty good. It's a good level of pest versus deadly. Most of the drones are just annoying, offering a necessary break from gunfire or looting if you're spotted, while others are a genuine threat. Like the Rocketeer, huge pain. The Harvester or the Queen, insanely powerful and something you're probably not going to take down unless you dedicate your whole game to it and bring a ton of ammo in. And then the Bison, I mean, that thing lunges at you. It's terrifying.
Jordan!
Oh!
Run!
I'm so dead.
Jordan, I'm gonna open it. You get in. You go first. You go.
I think the PvE elements, I only got annoyed when they would overly aggro my team versus no one else in a multi-team gunfight, because at that point, you have anywhere from 2 to like 6 players shooting you, plus then the AI, which is just at that point over the top and just super annoying. But for the most part, it felt pretty nice. Solos versus squads, this is something that I do want to touch on once again here now after the playtest. I feel like in my initial video discussing what we had available to use the other day, I didn't distinguish it well enough with solo play. You're still going to be queued into the same world as trios, but I do feel like the world of Ark is more manageable solo as compared to other games of the genre, where the mismatch in player numbers really only become apparent in engagements that you may seek out from time to time. And from the time that I played solo or as a duo, where third partying to be a pest or picking players off from afar is something that can absolutely level the playing field a bit, but you kind of have to tweak your mentality a little bit, but it's not something that is impossible within Ark Raiders. But there's a number of different ways to approach and play certain situations. Speeds for kind of all players. Again, some people love PvP. There is a ton of room for that. Some people love the crafting elements. There's room to just go in for a free loadout and collect your gear and get out with whatever you want to level that up. Some people love progressing the narrative, which you can do with contracts that eventually give you more and more cutscenes. You can craft items yourself or buy them from traders. You can upgrade your tool sets to do more and more. I think that's the thing I love about this game, is that it's got something for everybody, no matter how you want to approach the game. Again, aggressive, there's combat. You want to play it where it's a sort of completionist style of game, you can do that with all your skill trees, or you're progressing through workbenches and stuff like that. You want to PvE stuff? You can. There's a lot of different ways, and I really appreciate that. But probably one of the biggest things that I really appreciate now coming out of this, and for the picture at large, is the accessibility of this game. The availability for this to be on console is, I think, huge. I think this is one of the reasons why I love it from a sort of perspective of the gaming scene, because this launched into its tech test on console and PC in such a polished state. Like, this is probably one of the first large-scale AAA caliber level of games in the extraction genre that's on consoles and PC. Most of the times, a lot of the hardcore stuff is just PC. Tarkov, Gray Zone, down to your more accessible things like Delta Force and others mixed in between all of those different levels, but there's still a lot mostly on PC. So for that gameplay loop to be on console, as well for an entirely new audience base to see it and interact with it on such a huge performing scale, I think it's just a great entry into the genre as a whole, just for the sheer sake of getting more people into it. That I absolutely loved. It was really cool to see some of the social features as well. Proximity chat and VoIP made for some incredible scenarios. One of my favorites was this crew of super kid players tried to ambush my squad just out in the middle of an open field. You figure that's a layup here, but they proceeded to get absolutely decimated by me and my squad. And they were like, wait, let's talk about this, guys, as if, like, you know, we could have talked about it before you shot at us. But it does produce some funny moments and just allows for players to interact with the world beyond just their crew on a larger scale, and does make, again, for some, say, solo play. If you are a solo player, you can make new friends here and join up on crews, perhaps, if they're feeling like not stabbing you in the back. Though one thing that I did notice, I don't know if this was just an issue with some of my hardware, maybe I didn't have my routing set up properly, but when I had my controller plugged in for PC, it was something that I couldn't actually activate voice chat. So I don't know if it was like the gamepad controls taking over the sort of controls for PC and activating your hotkey binding for voice chat. I don't know if that's something that is on me or if that's just something that was the way the game build worked, but that was something that I noticed. One other thing that really stood out to me was a lack of monetization. In the alpha, there was absolutely none, or more specifically, real-world currency that would then transfer into the game. You had things like Raider tokens and coins that were in-game currencies, but those were all organic things you could unlock that didn't require any outside monetary real-life conversions. And I'd very much like this to stick this way, but I also don't know if that would be the case. I think as we have it right now, it's super consumer friendly to earn items while incentivizing playtime as the only way to earn these things, because you literally don't have to spend a dime in this tech test. But again, however, on the flip side of that coin, pun partially intended, it is a tech test. Why would there be a monetary system in place with real currency to buy things if it's just going to be something that after the weekend everything is wiped and goes away? Wouldn't make sense to have it in the alpha, but we saw how a system without monetary transactions could actually take place and could actually work to be consumer first. My only sort of hope for this to continue is that Arc Raiders will be a $40 game, so Embark will make money off of people playing it. Whereas, say, The Finals, their other title, you can buy currency and there is an actual monetary level to this, but that's because it's a free-to-play game. The entire business model revolves around microtransactions at that point, whereas a base $40 doesn't take that gamble on how much will this player spend versus how much another player will spend. So when you're already spending $40 to gain entry to the game, that might be something that there might not be as much a push to end up monetizing even further. Fingers crossed. That's a obviously very optimistic way to look at the gaming space in today's economy, but it's a weird sort of seesaw that we probably won't know more about until later on down the line, but it's nice to be able to progress and earn the cosmetics of things just by simply playing the game and using my own personal achievements as unlocks. A few other notes here. One of the things that I did really enjoy is I really liked the combined progression for tracking challenges. It's kind of a bit dumb if someone's dead, I think, that it doesn't track for them. I guess I get the design decision as to why that happens, but a little bit frustrating that you could kind of leave somebody in the dust if you are playing with them, working on some higher tier challenges, because some of the early ones are very easy challenges. Like the first challenge you have is to go to the surface and then ping an arc enemy. That's it. You can do that for anybody and it's very easy to do. But when you start to get to things where you need specific items to take out certain enemies, that's just, if somebody's dead and doesn't get the credit for that, it's annoying to have to redo those types of things. But overall, I do enjoy the fact that those challenges do progress for anybody else in your squad that does actually have those challenges active. Now, a few things that I'd like to see change. I would really love the ability to pick up enemies who are downed completely, like finished off. the knockout enemies, that just ends their game here with this, and there's no way to get players back up. This, again, I kind of get the design decision, but I think that it really takes away from some of the hero moments that can be produced in extraction shooters as a result. Like, one of the things that I loved about, say, DMZ was when you played and you got ambushed, you could make that full wrap around and then, like, 15 minutes later come back, and even if your teammate was picked bone dry with all their loot, you could still get them back up where they had the chance to get back into the fight. You could take revenge on the enemy squad, whatever the case. It produced these really cool sort of cinematic moments that offered, again, that level of hero aspect of saving the day. You make this huge play and you're rewarded for it. But in Arc Raiders, as it stands right now, once you get downed and then knocked out, you can't do that again. Even if your squad is up, they end up coming back and wiping the entire enemy team that ended up taking you out. There's just no chance to get back into the fight, and your stuff is then lost for good. I would love for this to be something that in the future is adjusted. I don't know if this is just my take. Again, if it is, it's subjective. You're very much so welcome to your own opinion on it. I think it'd be really cool to, even if it required a piece of utility item or something, like an epic or legendary piece of loot, that it's not something that is readily available, but it is something that's out there. I do think it'd make for some cool scenarios in the gameplay loop. Another thing that I found interesting, and I don't know that I'd change, but I'm still kind of on the fence on how I feel about it, was that each match didn't necessarily have to be new when you joined in, seemingly also having the possibility of spawning you where another group of players could have spawned a few minutes earlier. But if you looked up at the match timer upon joining, you'd notice that you'd be anywhere from upwards of 30 minutes for the match time, which is the max time you had, to I think the lowest I saw was 18 minutes on startup for my squad. So you're joining in on worlds that are already progressed, meaning that players you encounter could already be looted up on the high tier loot in the world. They could have looted other dead enemies they could have killed already, or they could be right around the corner. In a way, I suppose this sort of counters some of this spawn memorization situations where, I mean, even after just a few hours, let alone adding another day of playtime of knowledge from just this weekend of the public test with it, I already knew where most of the spawns were on each of the maps. Probably a majority of them that this directly combats, cutting players off immediately and ruining their game in the first couple of minutes. Like, I get that perspective of it, but it still happens from time to time, even when you join in late. I've joined games on Buried City where just beyond the flats, literally in front of my spawn point, there were teams of gunfire and downed players. So that's something that it still happens even with the conscious effort to combat it. So I'm not sure how I feel about this one just yet. And there was one other thing that I'm gonna forget it, man. And it's gonna drive me crazy that I can't think of it, but I know that I thought about it during the weekend of play sessions multiple times where I'm like, I need to write that down. And guess what? I didn't. But anyways, the tech test I thought was really good. I really enjoyed it. Again, it's my new obsession here, I'd say, and I'm very much so looking forward to when this game launches. Problem is, no launch time has been revealed just yet. This, I think, is the biggest question that I've personally had because I just want to play it again. I loved grinding it out this past week and weekend. I would absolutely love to jump back in and not have a care in the world beyond throwing myself into another game. If we can allow ourselves to speculate a little bit here at this, all in theory, I wouldn't be surprised if Embark shadow dropped this randomly with no real promotion or prior announcement of the release date. I mean, that's what they did after all for the finals. At the Game Awards in 2023, they presented the finals as a trailer, but said, stick around, the launch date may be closer than you expect. And then, right after that trailer finished, it announced that it was playable immediately following. So the formula that worked like that in the past, I wouldn't be surprised if they did that again to generate a ton of initial buzz as is. My only worry would be the price tag associated with this rather than free-to-play nature of the finals. As a shadow drop, it might not work as well, but I mean, we'll see. As for putting the tinfoil hat on as to when that would be, if it's to launch that way, I think my best guesses for when we'd see this happen would be Summer Game Fest and Gamescom at the earliest. Summer Game Fest is a little less likely, but would ultimately capitalize on like the immediate hype behind this project right now and the tech session that we just had, because it seemed like everybody loved how polished and well done it was so far that, I mean, it's possible, I'd say, but maybe not my first pick. I wouldn't put money on it, but the reason I think it's a little less likely is it's just over a month's time at this point. Something that wouldn't really afford a ton of feedback and time to implement changes from feedback from this tech test. So maybe, but beyond that, another possible outcome I think would be August with Gamescom. This would be probably something that was showcased at Opening Night Live if that's the case, which is August 19th, giving 3 more months of prep and polish to the game. And at that point, as much as I hate to say it, it is a genuine tactic that players don't really like to consider, but businesses absolutely do. That's a way more competitive release date for another extraction shooter releasing than, pending no delays, Marathon. It's kind of petty, but it's the nature of competition of the industry too, that while I like both games for different reasons, Arc Raider is 100% the more polished and more complete game at this juncture, so if it launched at a comparable time, it actually might do damage. But either way, with a 2025 release confirmed, the question really only comes down to when. Maybe we get more information soon on when that actually comes. Maybe it'll shadow drop like the finals was in the near future, but for now, that's going to wrap it up. Loving Arc Raiders, very much so looking forward to it. Probably going to put up some runs on the second channel here in full, so if you guys want to check that out, check out the link in the description below. Plus, also, when it comes out, I'll probably do more coverage over there as well, like more in-depth stuff, as opposed to more maybe top-level things here on the main channel. But for now, as we're going to wrap it up, let me know your thoughts down below. Did you guys check out Arc Raiders? Do you like the game so far? Are you looking forward to the full launch? Whatever the case, love to hear your thoughts. For now, though, thanks so much for watching. Drop a like, make sure to subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care, and peace.